Welcome again to Business Stories with Osai Ilome. And on this edition, we want to dwell on the issue of managing relationship with the perspective of managing your customers. Now, recently, few days back or a day or two back, we have been bombarded on social media with the photo or the picture of Elon Musk and a supposed robot wife. Now, I want to use this opportunity to let our viewers to understand that that photo was actually fake. Now, you must understand that in this age of artificial intelligence, you must learn to be able to decipher between AI-generated images and actual pictures of human being. Now, talking about human being, what we must understand while this photo of Elon Musk and the robot wife is going viral, it's not just because it's a robot wife, but it is because there is an increasing issue in relationships. There are a lot of challenges in marriages, a lot of challenges in friendship, a lot of challenges in managing your relationship between your acquaintance and even your family members. And so people are always eager to know or to see where the next problem or who is having the next problem, where the next problem is coming from or who is having the next problem. And so we want to now use this because for us, whatever happens, provide a basis for us to learn. And so if, like I said, the picture that we all have been bombarded with, even if it is fake, even if it's not real, but we can attest to the fact, the hunger of people in trying to understand a better way of managing their relationships. And so we want to take a little bit of time to give us some 2 cents or 2 naira, not urgent 2K, on how we can actually manage our relationship using the story that I'm going to tell you now about the frog and the man. Now, the frog, first and foremost, is a poikilothermic animal. A poikilothermic animal. Now, what it means is that the frog kind of depends on the ambient environmental temperature. Okay, it depends on the temperature of the environment to be able to survive and sustain its life. Okay, as a poikilothermic animal. Now, whereas on the other end, man, you and I, we are homeothermic animal, and so we internally regulate our body temperature. So get this very clear. Why frog is a poikilothermic animal, man is a homeothermic animal. So frog depends on the ambivalent environmental changes of the temperature to survive, but man, on the other hand, controls the internal metabolic process to ensure that he sustains his life in exclusion of the ambivalent environment. So what is the story here? First, let me tell you about the frog and the boiling water. Because of its configuration as a poikilothermic animal, when you put, for instance, when you put a frog in the water, okay, it quickly adjusts his temperature, his body temperature to the temperature of the water. Okay, so when you now start to increase the temperature of that water by dint of putting it under the fire, okay, and you start to boil that water, the frog will consistently continue to adjust his body temperature to adjust with the temperature, the increasing heat from the boiling water. Okay, so as the boiling water increases in temperature, the frog somehow, by way of its configuration, adjust his body temperature to the increasing temperature of the water. Now, this is what the frog will continue to do until it gets to a point that the water gets to a degree that it begins to boil. And at that point, because the frog has consistently tried to adjust his body temperature with the temperature of the boiling water, the frog becomes so weak that he will not be able to jump out of the boiling water. Whereas, if the frog were to have a process, a metabolic process, in which it can understand the increasing temperature of the water and understand that it might get to a point that it might no longer be comfortable for it, the frog has the capacity to jump out, because the frog jumps very well. So he naturally would have the capacity to jump out of the water. But unfortunately, because of the way he's also configured, it does not have that metabolic process to refuse to adjust his body temperature with the temperature of the environment. So you discover that whereas he has the power to avoid this death that will eventually catch up with him as a result of continuously adjusting to the temperature of the environment, he is unable to utilize it because he does not have the process in place to activate that rescue operation. And so what lesson is there? Before we go to the lesson, let's give you the picture of the man vis-a-vis how man as a homothermic animal is able to regulate his body temperature. Now, we have told you, because the lesson is from the body mechanism, the body metabolic process of man. So the first lesson here is that for you as an individual or as a leader of a business, you must ensure that you have a process in place. You have an effective and working process in place. Businesses cannot run without processes and procedure. This is something that you must understand, because businesses is made for man, and it is man that manages these businesses. Are you getting me now? So that must be understood. That is the first lesson. So what are the other lessons on how we can manage our business relationship, manage our customers, by regulating the temperature in that relationship? Because every relationship comes with a temperature. There are relationships that when it starts, whether in marriage or in business, the temperature is such that both parties are able to cohabit. Both parties are able to, make sense out of the relationship. But you discover that over time, there could be an increasing tempo, increase in temperature in that relationship. And so, how do you now regulate? Because one of the key aspects of ensuring your business makes progress and profit is to ensure the stability of that business. And that is where the lesson is coming from. And we'll be learning that lesson from the process that homothermic animals, which includes man and birds, mammals, is a process of, whereby they are able to regulate. They have a process whereby they are able to regulate the internal heat temperature, to ensure that it does not get to combustion level. Okay, so how is man configured to manage this internal temperature mechanism? First, man can manage his internal temperature by shrinking, by shrinking certain aspects, certain components of the body mechanism, or by shivering, by shivering some aspects of the body components as well. So what lessons can we now learn from these two key aspects. Now, the lesson is this: as a business or as an individual in a relationship, you can adopt the process of shrinking or shivering certain aspects of that relationship. So, for instance, let's take shrinking. For example, you have a customer, and the customer is owing, for some services or some supplies that you have made. Okay, now you trust the customer to be able to pay back, but of course, for one reason or the other, the customer has not been able to pay back as he or she or as the agreement stipulated. Okay, now, and the customer is coming for the same amount of supply or the same amount of service or the same amount of goods, from you. Now, what you can do is to shrink if possible, because since you have some level of trust in the customer, he has been dealing with you for some months or for some years, and he has been paying. Okay, and especially in this current economic condition where inflation and among other factors are really troubling businesses. Okay, now if you have the capacity to also supply or provide a service to that very client, it is advisable that you don't go the whole hog of providing the client the same quantity that you are used to providing the client, because of course the client is having some shortfall in his obligations, and so you can shrink the service that you are supposed to render to him such that you don't ignore the customer outrightly. So that is one way you can shrink your service to that very customer, having in view that there is an outstanding payment with that customer. The same thing applies to whether in marriage. Okay, a particular period you are having issues with your wife or with your spouse or your husband, and the issue is getting to the boiling point. Okay, you can decide to shrink your response. Okay, you can check your response so that you don't get it to the boiling point. Okay, you can do that by excusing yourself out of that very environment. Okay, by excusing yourself out of that very environment, so that the other party will lose. Because there are times when issues are getting very hot. When both of you are seeing each other, it increases that desire, that need for you to respond. Okay, and so you can decide to, for that, period of time, to shrink your presence, by going away from that very environment, so that, possibly sanity can return to both parties as a result of out of sight for a particular period of time. And that is why you also see in some relationships, it gets to a point that people can just, okay, let's stay apart for a while, so that perhaps we can get our acts back together, then we can come back as husband and wife, or as girlfriend or boyfriend. Okay, so that is one approach that you can use to ensure that you stabilize your relationship over time, or you stabilize your business over time. Now, we are giving this example. There are so much examples that we can share, but because of time, we might not be able to share. That the next approach is a shivering. Okay, shivering. So, how do you adopt a shivering approach in managing your relationship, your personal relationship, or your business relationship, your customers, your clients? Okay, now I'll give you this example. Somebody is owing you, a customer is owing you, and yes, you value the customer, you value the relationship, but of course you need your money to be paid. So how do you shiver, so that this person could understand the importance or the intensity of your need, okay, for him or her to pay you back. Okay, so this brings about an aspect where you can deploy a threat measure, a legal approach, or security operatives approach. Now, within all the threats and whatever you ought to do should also be within the bounds of the law, because we don't encourage taking the laws into your hands. And so you can threaten that very client with litigation, or you can threaten that very client, with police action or Economic and Financial Crimes Commission action. Now you do it in such a way that you are not going to consummate these processes, because of course in our current environment, if you want to use the police, I have a very personal experience. You want to use the police to even go against an offender, and the police will be asking you to pay some money that are outrageous. Okay, and so and that might not be very good for you as a business person, because at the end of the day, you are even spending what you are expected to recoup from that transaction. And so but you can use that as a threat, so that the person can also, on the other hand, who will not want to be taken through that process, will begin to also give consideration to paying back that money. Or if it is a relationship, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, how do you use shivering approach to stabilize your relationship? Now, you can threaten to quit the relationship. Okay, you can threaten to quit the relationship by demonstrating, certain behaviors, certain actions, or by inviting a third party, into the process. But of course, we encourage that before you get to that point, you must ensure that it has become something that is also threatening the relationship, or threatening to your person as an individual. Okay, or you can seek for a counseling session with an expert. So these are approaches that you can actually deploy to see that you stabilize your business or your relationship. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and share this video so that we can continue to update you with important videos such as this one. See you again.